Ready? All right, I'm going to go ahead and call the June Board of Commissioners meeting. And I'd like to say good morning for all the folks joining us virtually. We are broadcasting this meeting live. For your reference, all information shared today is available online at www.nrha.us in the Board of Commissioners section. We will allow for public comment near the end of today's agenda, and virtual participants will have an opportunity to raise their hand to comment. Attendees may also use the chat feature to make their comments as well. I will share those prompt instructions closer to the time that we do that. Again, I'd like to thank everyone for attending this morning's meeting. We have a very full agenda. We're going to have a presentation on the FY2022 proposed budget, a presentation of the CNI revised housing plan, as well as the presentation of the CNI economic inclusion plan. Also, the board will be asked to approve and authorize submission of the authority's FY2022 annual and 5-year plan for the public and assisted housing. As you recall, we received an overview of the plan and held a public hearing at our May 13th board meeting. Additionally, there are 2 items for a closed session. I, with fellow commissioners and Ron and Delphine, had the pleasure of attending Vice Chair Alfonso Albert's retirement celebration from his administrative position at the Gethsemane Community Fellowship Church, which he served from its founding almost 30 years ago until May of this year. It was very extraordinary, yet not surprising, to hear testimony after testimony thanking Alfonso for his selfless and tireless support and mentorship to so many people, including fellow parishioners and family members, as well as many who were in attendance. Alfonso interceded in so many occasions to help out and lend support to countless individuals who in many cases had nowhere else to turn. Alfonso was there for them. It is indeed an honor to have such a person as Alfonso serving along with us. It really was a very great celebration. Yeah. It was, they know how to throw a party. Now, fellow commissioners, I invite your comments, if any, on the minutes of the May 13th board meeting. Any comments? Hearing none, I welcome a motion to approve. A second?
Second.
Ms. Carnes?
Ms. Harrington?
Aye.
Mr. Benessi?
Aye.
Mr. Dillard?
Same.
Ms. Purrier?
Aye.
Mr. Gresham?
Aye.
Mr. Musacchio?
Aye. All right, the next item is the executive director's comment.
Okay, I just really wanted to introduce our guest for the commissioners who didn't have the opportunity to meet him, the tax consultants, and they came down. This is their first trip out of the, I guess, in person since the pandemic. So, and they'll be giving us a presentation during the closed session. But I wanted to at least have them introduce themselves, if you could.
Sure. Jeff Lyons, president of TAG, Paul Galvin, who's our vice president, and Samantha Bradley Sam, who is an associate with TAG, are 3 of the many members that have worked on the assessment. Glad to be here. Good to meet you all.
Welcome.
Thank you. And there's you have a copy of the presentation, and on the back there's a bio of each of the team members that are here. So thank you all for joining us today. So that's all I have.
Commissioners' comments, any? All right then, let's move right into the finance and administrative operations. Ms. Matt, come on up, and that is on page 13 of your packet.
Like you a presenter.
Do I get a keyboard? This kind of squirmy, I'm just saying. Is this what I use?
Yep.
Can you pull up my presentation? And when it happens, I got it. Okay. Sorry about that. Good morning, Commissioners. Can you hear me okay? The purpose of our presentation this morning is to present the FY22 proposed budget and to conduct a public hearing. I'm going to be as brief as possible so we can go ahead and move on to public comment. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer it along the way. You can't hear me?
Not well. I don't know if the mic is it on?
Is it on?
No.
No, the microphone doesn't work.
It doesn't work?
No, it's through the phone.
What does that what does that mean?
It only hurts there.
The sound goes through the phone, not through the mic.
Oh, okay. I'll try to speak up then. Sorry about that. I'm just having a hard time today. It's not advancing.
I'll get over there in that corner.
That corner?
There we go.
Good. Okay, so you received your budget document electronically on May 28th. It represents the annual spend plan for all programs administered by NRHA. There were no material changes in the proposed budget from the balancing presentation that you saw last month. And this is a recap of some of the items in the budget. At this time, the budget process is an agency-wide effort. The office receives input from the executive team, directors, managers, program staff, as well as the Budget and Finance Committee. In order to develop the budget, we analyze historical funding trends, expenditure patterns. We consider seasonality and grant awards, and we incorporate any known staffing changes. In the FY22 proposed budget, there's no reductions in service delivery. We incorporated a 2% cost of living adjustment. Most vacant positions remain funded. Future RAD conversions are to be treated as a budget amendment. It reflects our current Tidewater Gardens demolition schedule. Does not assume the receipt of developer fees. Applies land sales proceeds to balance the operations of the development division. Assumes a continuation of all grant awards. And lastly, the proposed budget model does not reflect organizational revenue changes resulting in the TAG report. And I want to make a quote from Ron's message in the budget book. As we implement organizational and cost-saving measures, the resulting positive impacts will begin to be realized in FY22 and will continue for years to come. This is an overview of the FY22 proposed budget. It's $112 million. It is $16 million less than the amended budget for FY21. The majority of the differences relate to the capital and project costs in the capital fund, CIP, and general fund areas, as well as program costs for C&I pre-development and our COVID housing cost relief program. As in previous years, housing makes up the majority of the budget of $72 million. 80% of that $72 million is derived from our HCV program as well as low-income public housing. The development slice is the next largest slice of $33 million, where 70% is made up of capital funds and the operations of our privately managed properties. This slice also includes the city's capital improvement program. Other programs are programs that don't neatly fit into one of the other two operating divisions. It includes items such as core business, project development, financing, and ED contingency funds. An important thing to note about other programs is some of these projects do not have their own revenue, which means that we do fund some of these projects from earnings in our privately managed reserves. As a reminder from last month, the budget is balanced. It's balanced utilizing earnings of $2.8 million and $4.1 million of reserves. So our proposed resources is largely supported by the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD grant. 61%. It includes programs such as HCB, federally aided, capital funds, CDBG, and our home program. Tenant revenue makes up 24% of the authority budget, and this includes mainly rent payments. The major program contributors are federally aided program, RAD, PBB projects, privately managed properties, as well as city D towers. City funding of 8% includes our general fund administrative support, as well as CIP funding from the city of Norfolk for acquisition and demolition of property and transforming public housing. Other income makes up 3% of the revenue, and this includes items such as land sales proceeds and bond fees. Want to make a note that even though land sales proceeds is not technically considered a shortfall, we are planning on using $312,000 in FY22 to balance the development division's operating budget. And as we mentioned in the previous slide, we anticipate utilizing $4.1 million of reserve. This slide shows expenditure by category or type. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail on each one, but I do want to point out a couple of items. Program costs account for 34% of our total expenditures, and it's predominantly comprised of our housing assistance payments. While capital multi-year programs is driven by our capital fund program, and it includes extraordinary maintenance of our communities, it also includes economic development, Monroe Building Rent, and the CIP program funded by the city of Norfolk. Other admin includes non-personnel related costs for administrative overhead, while operating costs are related to maintenance of our operations of our federally aided communities, RAD projects, privately managed, and 555 East Main Street operations. Labor and fringe benefits, about 11%. It should be noted that this is direct labor and fringe, and general expense makes 2%, and includes items such as liability insurance, real estate tax, and pilot payments. For FY22, of course, long-term fiscal stability and planning, the agency will continue to look at repositioning and identify ways to increase revenues and mitigate shortfalls, and begin implementation of the organizational and operational efficiency strategy. And that concludes our presentation. I want to remind the board that there's a special meeting on June 24th, Thursday at 9 a.m. to consider approving the budget. And I think Ron would like to discuss the commissioner's workshop that we get for June 14th.
Yeah, with the, that being scheduled on Monday, and in light of the fact that we wanted to first hear the presentation, the TAG presentation, and also we wanted the opportunity to consider the recommendations that were part of the TAG assessment, and then come up with an implementation plan. In light of that, we didn't really see the need to have the workshop, because the more important, impactful things are actually going to come from the implementation plan. So we could forego that and just move toward the 24th to adoption of the budget, and then we can, deal with any amendments or things, subsequent to the approval of the budget on the 24th.
Comments? Anyone?
Thank you. I guess our court reporter is in here.
Oh, she's here.
Oh, that was perfect timing.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So we'll have a quick 2-minute for her to set up, come in here and set up, and then we'll get the public hearing come in.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just make it.
Sure.
Good morning. She is amazing. You've got the script, yeah?
You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. I will now commence the public comment portion of the agenda. Virtual participants, if you would like to state your comment, please click on the raise hand icon on your screen and you will be called upon. You can also type a comment into the question box on your screen as well. When called upon, please address the virtual room by stating your first and last name, address, and then your comment. Please note that questions asked during this time may not be responded to, but instead we will make arrangements to follow up with you after the meeting to address specific questions. With that, I will ask, do we have anyone raising their hand?
We do not have anyone raising their hand, but we do have one in-person comment. In the
All right.
lobby. May I bring him in?
Sure. There he is.
I am here, ragged, torn, tattered. Well, I am here.
Good morning.
You can make it.
Hello. Good morning. Really fun. Hi.
Hold up.
Sure. Sorry. That's right.
We're ready to go back again? All right, Rachel, name, address, all that stuff.
Good morning. My name is Raytron White. I am the resident of Granby Village. I am the president. My address is 3149 E Kimball Terrace. This morning I came to ask the board and some of the staff of NRHA to visit our policy in our neighborhood and probably throughout NRHA. We have some incidents, and I can give you full detail of some kids that are my children, I call them, and they were wrongly accused of some things, but they had to be turned off. They had to get off of the lease before they were tried from the courts of Norfolk. And the Lord has been very good. The kids were exonerated from all the charges. These kids have never been in trouble. They've never had any problem with the law at all. Matter of fact, they were seniors graduating. And unfortunately, they cannot graduate because they were incarcerated for something they were at the wrong place at the wrong time. And NRHA has took them off their mother's lease. These kids have been in my program, my college tuition, for the last 3 or 4 years. Some of them have promising jobs. Actually, one of the young men worked considered nonprofit recreation. And we need to revisit the policy because we have some people that are on the policy, and the policy states your company, you're responsible for your company. And the person that had these incidents of the shooting, that person is still in the neighborhood having a ball. And the residents are scared in the neighborhood. And she said that she's scared. And I think it's the right thing to do for the board to revisit, because I stand here today for the kids. I know them from the back of my hand to the front of my hand. And we want to make sure that we do not lose these kids to society. And we found out 4 or 5 years later, we're back in jail because there's no hope. They've done very good in our neighborhoods. We have no problem. But the person that we have problem with is still roaming. And it even brought a letter to my office. I got some office from the mayor, sent it to my office about something of her statute that was she having a problem in the neighborhood. So the board, I plead you all, look at the policy. Because we have people in the neighborhood that have felonies that still are on the lease. They are, the head of households. And these kids will be put off the lease before they were even judged. So what it tells our community, our children, we all make mistakes in life. All of these mistakes. But this mistake was exonerated because what the police wanted to do to get all the kids and target all the kids for something they knew who was a shooter. So I beg you all, please, to look at the policy because now these kids have nowhere to go. They're on the street. Their parents have enough of doing to keep their jobs and keeping their household for their children to have found somewhat for them to go. Thank you all for listening to me, and I hope that we can, we don't say okay and we don't look at this, because I'm going to come here every month to make sure we can get this resolved the right way.
I thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Others? Would you check outside just one more time, please?
All right, we have no one in the lobby and no one raising their hand, but if you would like to repeat that prompt one more time.
All right. If you would like to state your comment, please click on the raise hand icon on your screen, and you will be called upon. You can also type a comment into the question box on your screen as well. When called upon, please address the virtual room by stating your first and last name, your address, and then your comment. Please know that questions asked during this time may not be responded to, but instead we will make arrangements to follow up with you after the meeting to address your questions and concerns.
At this time, we have no questions, no hands raised, and no questions submitted via chat.
All right. Then I will then call the public comment period to a close. Thank you very much. We're good.
All right, thank you.
Have a nice rest of the day. All right. Then, and again, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Virginia, anything else we need?
Any questions on the reports submitted by Ministry of Operations?
We had all the reports. Any questions, comments on the report?
Was there anything related to the charge-off?
Oh, that's Donna.
Was Donna?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have any questions?
No, no, we'll see how it goes.
Okay. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. And I guess we're ready for development?
Yes.
That's on page 30,
Uh-huh.
starting on page 30.
Okay, yeah, we have a couple of items under development. And John Majors is doing both. The first one he's going to present as a revised housing plan for the C&I transformation. And then related to that, to the C&I, he's also going to talk about the economic inclusion plan.
Okay.
So, John?
Good morning. Can you all hear me?
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. And let's see. I'll go ahead and share my webcam. I'm not. Okay, great. You guys can see me, I think. All right. And so my colleague Todd Lieberman is on as well. And so Todd and I will sort of tag team this this housing plan update if that's okay. Okay. Can we bring the deck up? I can't tell if everyone's looking at the slide deck or not.
I will make you a presenter, John.
Okay.
And you can share your screen.
Oh, okay. All right. Let me get ready for that. Sorry, I thought you had it. Okay, give me a sec.
And John, just to let you know, Todd Lieberman is unmuted, but muted on his end. So if Todd needs to speak, just Todd, please unmute yourself to speak, okay?
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Sorry, let me get this pulled up here. Okay, so now are you all seeing the PowerPoint screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. All right. Okay, so we'll go through the revised C&I housing plan. We'll start with what you've already seen before. This is now outdated, but this is what HUD has officially approved last. And so very quickly, 226 replacement units, plus the 83 offsite units.
33 in your packet.
Okay, so 226 replacement units, affordable 232, and that's, the LIHTC units that, are at or below 60% AMI, and then 252 market rate units. That's a total of 710 units on site, and then again, the 83 replacement, add that to the 226, that gets you to 309. So again, this is stuff, you've probably seen this multiple times by now. This was how it was originally planned out, that we'd have, the Snyder lot in there, which we've talked about as part of the reason why we're having this discussion today. That's a change. And then the blocks laid out as you see them. You'll see that as we've gotten into this, we've sort of reconfigured how we're combining the blocks, et cetera. Some of that has to do with the schedule for infrastructure and some of the different schedules that all have to coalesce around this. And so, just making it work. All right. So I think you guys have this. I don't know that it would be super productive to go through these numbers at a nitty-gritty scale. All right. So here's sort of proposed, right? So we know that, okay, so we know that Snyder lot, we're going to hold out for now. Just some minor tweaks to the unit mix at 19, 17, and 18, as a sort of, as we've gotten into the transaction, as we've gotten into the design, et cetera. Block 2, we're going to keep that one flexible. It's going to be part of either one or both of the final transactions. That block may end up getting split. We'll see as we get, again, deeper into the design on those later phase, that last phase of the parcels. We're currently refining the plans for the Tidewater Gardens block. So that's sort of, what you're looking at is sort of, 4B, that area. That's currently being designed. Now we've added block 16 in just to make up for some of the units that are going to be lost with taking Snyder lot out, and then 3A and 3B as well. And this is going to, help us get some of the bigger units, some of the like townhomes and things like that, because this is an area that we hadn't had, I think, in the plan at one point, but that's an area where we're really going to be able to add some of those bigger types of units. All right, so this is sort of again proposed for the plan going forward. I won't necessarily run through these numbers, but you see, the geometry of the polygons looks a little bit different. We're working with a LIHTC consultant who's, he's sort of the expert in Virginia at LIHTC, and he is, confirmed for us that, these types of sort of odd shaped polygons, that is okay in terms of contiguous property for VHDA standards. So so we should be in good shape there, long as they're connected. Doesn't have to be a perfect rectangle. And then this is, a bunch of numbers. We can run through these if you all would like, but I know you'll have this in your packet as well. So again, you'll see one of the things we did is we kept this at the replacement. We really tried to do everything we could to keep this very, very similar. So especially for the replacement units, you'll see if you compare the unit mix of the replacement units, we're still at 226 units. The unit mix is exactly the same. So we didn't change anything. We had to reconfigure some things because, of course, losing one site and adding several others. But the way we set up the model, we kept the replacement housing units the exact same mix, et cetera. And so this whole income mix is the same as well. So any questions on any of that?
John,
Well,
this is Suzanne Purrier.
Good morning.
I just want to
make sure I'm clear about this. One, I know it's unfortunate we had to put the Snyder lot on hold. But so the income mix, in the proposed plan, all that is the same as it was in the previous plan,
Correct.
correct?
The 226, 232, 252, that is exactly the same as it was. As well as, if you look at the top line here, the replacement units, we kept that the exact same and the exact same bedroom count.
How about the bedroom mix? Is that also the same?
For the replacement housing, it is. For the others, it's not. But for the replacement housing, it is the exact same.
The bedroom mix is the same for those 226 units?
Yes, the 226 units is exactly the same number total, as well as, the same number of 1 bedrooms as we had, the same number of 2 bedrooms as we had, the same number of 3 and 4 bedrooms that you had in the proposed. So if you look at the first slide,
Right.
it should be the exact same as this replacement units mix.
I could have looked at that first slide, John, but it's easier just to ask you.
Yeah, no, that's fine. No, I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to imply that. I was just saying.
No, nothing taken. So I just wanted to make sure I was really clear about that I was reading the slides correctly, so thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and we did that, that we sort of said, and this model is, you wouldn't believe how complicated this model gets. But we said, all right, what's the piece that we are going to lock? What's the piece that we are not going to allow to change? And sure, we're going to have to add, some different units in. What's the 9%? What's the 4%? How are we combining the blocks? All those things. But we said, as we do all those things, what we are not going to change is this bedroom mix for the replacement housing units, and keeping that number the same.
Exactly my concern. So thank you.
Okay. So next steps from here, the city and NRHA will review this. There are some tweaks we're working on. We literally have a design team meeting this morning to, add in some of the requests for tweaks from city and NRHA staff. And then once we get that tweaked, it'll look very similar to what you've seen. It won't look very much different from that, I imagine. Then that will be submitted to HUD for review and approval. And I think that's all we have for that one.
Okay, other questions and comments?
John, this is Dick Gresham.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. The Catholic property being sort of an island in the middle of 4A, I assume, and I think I read somewhere that Block 2 is being reserved for trying to do a swap. Can you give us any idea whether that's progressing or whether we're going to be stuck with an island in the middle of the neighborhood?
So I think I can say we are in ongoing discussion with the Basilica. And I think that's probably all I should say.
All right. Thanks.
Other comments, questions? All right, thank you, John.
Okay, thank you all.
He has one other, the economic.
Right. Yeah, so the next item, John?
All right, I'm ready. Am I screen sharing again, or wait, what do I need to do?
Yes.
I'm already.
Yes.
You can see it. Okay, great. All right, only a year and a half in. I think I'm starting to figure out all these different, Zoom technologies. All right, so this is the overview of the economic inclusion plan. This one we'll go through, and I think you have the actual document to review. And so what I'll do is I'll hit some of the highlights of sort of what went into that plan, and then how, what that plan actually shows as the calculation. And I know you all want to get to the numbers in the formula and really get into the nitty gritty, but I do think it'll be helpful to share some of the context, surrounding the plan. All right, so really looking at this in terms of, sorry, trying to move my screen there. Okay, so what are the big picture goals? What would success look like? So, for us as a developer working, as a team with NRHA staff, with the city staff, we wanted to make sure that we were being responsive to the stakeholders. I've had personally multiple meetings with Commissioner Albert, Mr. Riddick from City Council, Ms. Graves, formerly of City Council, Ms. Royster, currently of City Council. We've had conversations and meetings over the years with city and NRHA staff, both on the project as well as on the economic inclusion side, as well as residents, right? So we've had several meetings, Section 3 meetings and things like that, where I've had conversations with residents. They've told me what some of their concerns were. They've told me what they'd like to see. And my style, my way of working, I'm going to bring all that back to the meetings. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that that we're including all of those comments and feedback, all that feedback, into how we're planning to move forward. So this every time I've met with Mr. Albert, I think he has reminded me of this. We will be judged on our outcomes, not on efforts, not on optics. I think that's been one of the things that has been not necessarily of us, because we're not sort of there yet, but I think that has been one of the criticisms of some previous efforts, is that it was heavy on efforts, heavy on optics, light on outcomes. And so we get it, we understand, and Mr. Albert, I've heard you, that we will be judged on outcomes. One of the things we really want to do is we want to change the narrative, right? So I've mentioned to you all that when I first started working on this project, people unsolicited would come up to me and say, yeah, you guys aren't going to be successful on your MBE participation. Norfolk's not Atlanta. Norfolk just doesn't have that deep cadre of MBEs. And we just want to change the narrative. I don't want that to be the case, when we're done with this project. I don't want that to be the narrative. The city and NRHA didn't have any functional database with MWBE firms. We now have a database with 70 firms, that provide services in that database. We were told that some of the past projects hadn't been responsive, that they didn't have outcomes. That's not going to be the case here. So we've got a database, and so we've already changed the narrative, right? Just by some of the things that we've already done. So how do we get to success? So there is the traditional minority and women business enterprise subcontractor inclusion. That's someone has a roofing business, someone has a drywall business. How do we make sure that the general contractor on these projects knows about that person? If that person needs some help with certification, if they need whatever help they need, let's make sure we make that marriage work. And again, focus on the outcomes, not, oh, well, we tried and it didn't work. What do we need to do? Whatever it takes to make it work, right? So that's part of how we get to success. But part of the other component of what we've heard is that, listen, there are people in Norfolk, in the Hampton Roads area, who are African American, who are women, and look, this was a part of what they were looking for 10 years ago. I want to get a contract on this deal, but now they're at a point where they want ownership. They want to be part of the wealth creation opportunities generated by this project. And so we're considering that part of what we are trying to do in terms of getting to successes as well. And then the other piece, and this comes directly from conversations that I've had with senior citizens, mainly women, at some of the Section 3 events. They say, look, I'm 70 something years old. I don't want a job on a construction project. How does this development benefit me? Do I have to try to get a subcontractor? That doesn't make sense for me. I'm 70 something years old, but does that mean that the housing development doesn't create any opportunities for me? So we're trying to be responsive to all of those things. So what have we done today, right? So we've hired Delcino Miles from the Miles Agency, whom I cannot say enough about. She's just been really, really incredible. She helped us put together and host a vendor fair in March. Trying to move this out of the way. Of course, it was virtual. I think these numbers are right. 400 plus registrations, right? 200 plus attendees on the call that day. Had Delcino. She brought all of her contacts from the MBE, WBE certification agencies. I mean, we really had a fantastic event. Out of that, we set up a website, norfolktidewater.com, where attendees could go. They could watch the video of the vendor fair. They could see the presentation, and there's also a form they could fill out so their information, what their certifications are, what codes they operate under in terms of industry. And we've got 70 subcontractors in that database right now. And the general contractors contacted, I think maybe 59 of those were a direct match for the construction needs of the project. So what else have we done? In terms of our architectural and design firm, so that's the part that we're spending money on right now, right? So we've brought on Moody Nolan, which is one of the nation's, maybe the nation's largest African-American owned architectural firm. They designed Block 17 and Block 18. The Livis Group, which is actually a Norfolk-based MBE, they will be part of the design team for the Tidewater Gardens blocks. And then Work Program Architecture, Mel Price and her team, which is a Norfolk-based WBE. So they're part of the design team as well. I think maybe a month or two ago, I was here introducing to you all BBRM Norfolk Partners, which is John Biagas, Lafayette Tatum, in their crew. So there are 4 of them who are going to be brought on as partners on the development team. That's still subject to HUD approval, but that's ownership, right? They're going to be part of the development team. They will get development fee. They'll get share of cash flow. Those folks have really been successful in a lot of other environments, and they're at a level where, sure, it'd be great to put them on as subcontractors, but they really are at a point where they're looking for ownership and wealth creation opportunities. And so we're bringing them on as partners. All right, so then this is the other piece. So this is what we're doing for people in residents who, might be senior citizens, might be children, might be folks who have jobs already who aren't going to want to get a job or, a contract at a construction project, right? So we're committing to donate 10% of the deal economics, right? So that's the developer fee and net cash flow from the housing development to a local resident support fund, resident services fund. I'm sorry, I think I've got a typo there. So it'll be a resident services fund. And what that, we're not going to make the decision about how that money gets spent. That's going to be local Norfolk stakeholders who form, I assume, some type of a committee who are going to make those decisions. But that's the way you can help kids. That could be used for scholarships to early learning. It could be used for senior citizens programs. It could be used for job training. There are any number of things that could be used for, but that's the way that this project will benefit folks who aren't going to, be actually out at the site, swinging a hammer. All right. So, all right, I know this is what everybody wanted to jump into, but I did think that context was important for sort of how we got to this quantitative goal. So this is the same as the city of Norfolk's adopted MWBE goals: 12% MBE, 13.3% WBE, and 25.3% total. And I think this came out of the Virginia Beach disparity study. I think that's where those numbers came right out of that, which Delcino Miles was one of the key contributors to helping write that report. So, how do the percentages, what's on top, what's in the denominator, the numerator, as you see listed there. And really what we're trying to do here is we're really trying to recognize, again, the outcomes, right? But there are outcomes both on the traditional, but then also on some of those more non-traditional economic empowerment opportunities that are created by the project. So I don't know if there are questions, if we want to stop there. I've got one more slide about sort of what we're doing. Basically, how are we going to make sure that we don't fail, right? And so this is what we've said. Look, this is maybe a goofy analogy, but I don't know. I'll see if it works. You're driving down the road, and if you start to get veer out of your lane, there are those little rumble strips on the side of the road, and you go, oh boy, I'm veering out of my lane. Let me get back in my lane. So these are all those sort of rumble strips, right? So if the city has a set of standards established for their outreach, right? So the outreach efforts, before you even get to the breaking ground, before you even get to letting contracts, are we doing everything that the city says we should be doing in terms of outreach? Well, for 19 and 20, the ones that'll be first to break ground, absolutely. We can check that box. We can, say, look, here, we can show you all the list of the outreach effort. But if you're not doing those, then you're not going to be successful, right? All right, so then performance reporting, say, here's where we are as we get into the actual contracts, and we've broken ground and we're moving. Hey, here's what the performance looks like so far. Okay, if we've got a shortfall, I know Mr. Albert's going to say, what's your plan for fixing that, right? And we've got to have, that's part of this economic inclusion plan, is that we've got to come to you all with a plan for remediating whatever shortfalls we're reporting. But then we're also going to say, look ahead. Okay, so here's what we anticipate the contract numbers to be. Here's what we anticipate the economic inclusion numbers to be. If it looks like we're going to have a shortfall, here's how we're going to address the projected shortfall. And then number 4, this rollover performance. So if we have a shortfall on a project, that's going to be rolled over, and we're going to have to basically make up for it on the future projects. And if we go through all those rumble strips and we still veer out of the lane at that point, if we get to the last phase, there's no more rolling over that can happen, then the developer pays liquidated damages. So that's all I have on the economic inclusion plan. Steve, I don't know if Todd's still on. I don't know if anybody else wanted to chime in or had any questions.
Yeah, thanks, John. I probably need to explain why I hit the heart button a couple times. Not sure what that means and why it's there, but thank you all for your time today, and really great presentation, John. And thank you for your support for the NRHA board. Bryn Shore is committed to this economic inclusion plan, and John has done a great job at working with the city to not only create a plan for Tidewater Gardens and St. Paul's, but also something that will hopefully be a model for future projects. So kudos to you, John.
Comments, commissioners?
That looks like a very strong commitment.
Okay, good. That's what we wanted.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I would just like to chime in, and John is very well aware of my thoughts, feelings about what he just presented. I would just say it was, as Ken said, a very strong commitment. I would also say that there are going to be phases of this work that effort won't be judged as nearly as strong as performance, and it shouldn't be. And so I would just say to John, and he understands this, I've talked to him about it before, preparing for the kind of outcome we're looking for is a part of the effort that I think we will try to give some judgment to and some analysis for. Overall, we're going to be looking for the actual outcome, the actual result, and that's what we're going to really kind of, judge. But the interim work and the kind of things that the interim work we'll be doing, I think it's important for us to acknowledge, to evaluate, and to give credit to good effort. But at the end of the day, it's going to be the outcome that we are truly judging. Good presentation, John.
Thank you.
And thank you for your painstaking effort to keep me involved in every slide. So, thank you.
Other comments?
I think it's important that at the appropriate time, that we make sure we promote this. You know, that we are clear to communicate that we're going to be results-oriented, and we've set a very high bar, and that we are doing what we said we were going to do. Not what the other people say we are doing, that we're not doing, or whatever, but we are doing what is important to that community.
Point well made. Other comments? All righty, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you all. Looking forward to continuing to work
Thank
with you.
John.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Come back here, Steve. You're not getting away.
All right, next item is development activity. Did you get those?
Nope.
Well, there's
Number 2, the reports in the packet.
the reports in the packet. There wasn't many sales in May, I think is what I said. So it's just a report of what's already happened. Again, then I think we'll now go to housing operations, which is on page 47. Ms. Thomas, come on in.
Good morning.
Hey, Kim.
Good morning.
All right.
Kim.
Morning, Dawn. So Commissioners, I come to you today with a resolution seeking approval for the Norfolk Redevelopment and Housing Authority's fiscal year 2022 annual and 5-year plan for public and assisted housing, and authorizing submission to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Each year we embark on this journey to prepare an annual and 5-year plan that allows us to update the initiatives and to look at the overall goals and objectives of the authority to move forward in the work. This year we have gone through that process again, convening our public meeting last month at the board meeting on May 13th, offering public comment. We had a 45-day review period of the proposed plan, and I am here now asking for your approval of the proposed final draft of the plan. In this year's plan, much of what is included is basically the basic language that we have, the updates, the initiatives. We also provided updates on the ATOP and admin report. Those are the two plans that govern the way we run our housing choice voucher program, as well as the low-income public housing program. We've also included relevant information regarding the 5-year approved capital fund spending plan, in addition to some HUD mandates and updates, such as the Safety Act of 2019 that calls for carbon monoxide detectors to be placed into all of our units that operate on gas or within proximity of gas boilers. So I hope you all have had a chance to review this final proposed plan. And again, I come here today seeking a recommendation for approval of the resolution. If this resolution is approved, the plan will be submitted to HUD next week on the 15th.
Comments, commissioners, questions? Okay. I will then seek a motion to approve.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Did you get the second?
Yes, sir. Mr. Dillard?
Okay. Ms. Starnes?
Commissioner Albert,
Aye.
Commissioner Arrington, Commissioner Benassi,
Aye.
Commissioner Dillard,
Aye.
Commissioner Purrier,
Aye.
Commissioner Gresham,
Aye.
Commissioner McFetrich.
Aye. thank you very much for your work during this difficult time. I know it's been rough with virtual and everything back and forth, and hopefully next year we can get back to the more in person, because I think we didn't get as many comments as we normally get without actually people being physically present. So kudos on the work that you guys did this year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Do we have any new business? New business, folks? None? The committee notes? Comments on the committee notes? Okay. Then I think we'll go ahead and look at possible closed meeting here. Let me find page 77. We ready, folks? Be resolved that the authority will convene in a closed meeting pursuant to the Virginia Freedom of Information Act as amended, the Act, to discuss the following matters which are specifically exempted from public disclosure by the code section referred to below. Personnel matters involving the assignment, appointment, promotion, demotion, performance, salaries, or resignation of employees of the authority as authorized by section 2.2-3711A1 of the Act, and consultation with the authority's legal counsel regarding probable or actual litigation requiring the provision of legal advice by counsel as authorized by section 2.2-3711A7 of the Act. May I have a motion?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Carnes?
I apologize. Is Mr. Dillard out?
Oh,
He's on the phone.
He's on the phone line.
it's on the,
Okay, all right, should I go ahead and call the roll?
yes.
Commissioner Albert?
Aye.
Commissioner Arrington?
Aye.
Commissioner Benassi?
Aye.
Commissioner Purrier?
Aye.
Commissioner Gresham?
Aye.
Commissioner Rosacchio?
Aye. Okay, we will take our usual 5 minutes of no discussion of anything while they take care of all the stuff in the closed meeting.
I'm on, man.
We back on, Jan?
Let me double check, but I believe we are.
Reached out from Norfolk.
Yes, we are good to go.
We ready?
Ready.
All right.
I gotta run today.
Here we go. Whereas the authority has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and whereas section 2.2-3712D of the 1950 Code of Virginia, as amended, requires a certification by this authority that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now therefore, upon motion duly made and seconded, be it resolved that the authority hereby certifies that to the best of each commissioner's knowledge, one, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were heard, discussed, or considered in the closed meeting, and two, only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the authority. May I have a motion?
I'll second.
Have a second?
I second.
Okay. Ms. Carnes?
Commissioner Albert?
Aye.
Commissioner Arrington?
Aye.
Commissioner Benesky?
Aye.
Commissioner Dillard?
Aye.
Commissioner Courier?
Aye.
Commissioner Gresham?
Aye.
Commissioner Masaccio?
Aye.
Me too.
Are there any public on the call to make public comments?
Scott?
Here,
None?
no questions.
None?
None.
Seeing none?
Hearing none, I will call the June Commissioners' meeting to a close.
Thank you, Suzanne. Suzanne,
Sir?
may I trouble you